Good morning and welcome to Have Faith, Let It Begin. Today is Monday. And you know what? Dr. E is back. So this is August 14th, 2023. And you know what we're going to do with Dr. E today? We're going to take you back and talk about the best podcast on Sundays. Because, surprise, today's episode is about the creator and the man of the hour of the CROC Podcast. Have Faith, Let It Begin starts right now.
Have faith, let it begin. When it starts right now.
Welcome to Have Faith. Let it begin. Here's your host, Angel Santana.
Ariel, can you say have faith?
Let it begin.
Let it begin?
Let it begin.
Say have faith.
Let
Let it begin.
No.
No? Okay.
It's a boy.
Hi, Noah.
Noah!
Noah.
Jesus. Happy birthday, Noah!
Caitlin,
You did amazing.
you just put those notes in. Noah.
Good morning. You listening to Have Faith, Let It Begin. And it starts right now. How is that, Daddy?
It was good. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Have Faith, Let It Begin. We've got Dr. Ian Ellie. We're laughing because I botched the beginning, and I'm going to put it at the bloopers. You're going to get to hear it. Dr. E, surprise. First of all, welcome back, and surprise because today's episode is really entitled What We Give to Others, and I couldn't think of any person that I would rather talk to about and share that message with than you because of what you do for your cancer survivors and thrivers and what you do and what you bring to the podcast platform entitled the CROC Podcast.
Angel, God bless you. That's such a great surprise. I didn't know that I was going to be on the spot today, and I'm glad I took a week off to be able to prepare myself for this, for you springing this on me.
Of course. And for those of you that don't know, Dr. E and I, real quick background story, we were thrown together because Dr. E was looking for somebody that needed information as far as teaching them how to do a podcast. Well, lo and behold, we clicked. We clicked so much that it was not an accident. You know, God made a great decision, and the person that put us together was our good friend Rod, who was also another person that happens to be my brother's neighbor. So you can't align that any more perfect than the way he structured it. So here we are, 3 seasons later. Dr. E, share with the Have Faith, Let It Begin family the CROC Podcast, please, so that they know about it. It's on Sundays at 9 a.m.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do it. But before I could even talk about the CROC Podcast, I just want to talk to you about the origins of the CROC Podcast and the origins of the word CROC, C-R-O-C. So I think we have discussed, my sort of, I would say, torturous route to becoming an oncologist, becoming a radiation oncologist. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I went through a couple of different subspecialties before I ended up in radiation oncology, and I began my full practice in 1989, practicing with, in the learning capacity as a resident in radiation oncology. So like 1989 was the year that I would put as the start date that I got the privilege and honor of meeting my first cancer survivor as an oncologist. And it was such a wonderful experience, even though, I went through many painful times trying to become good at it as an oncologist and learning all the intricacies of radiation oncology and all the tech, all the little technologies and all the different nuances of it. There was one thing that was always present, and that was the specialness. That's not a word, but we make them up. But the absolute uniqueness and courageousness and bravery and amazing spirit that people who have been diagnosed with cancer. And after I finished my training, I started working in a very urban, underserved area in Newark, New Jersey for a couple of years before I went into private practice in an academic setting. And my feelings, even though I had more responsibility and was more involved in direct patient care I already was building this connection with the cancer survivor thriver. And then I went out into the country back in 1993, and started up in Orange County. And I think my first involvement with the notion, I guess not involvement, but my first notion came really when I was watching my kids who are now in their 30s, when they were young little ones playing on a beach, making sandcastles. And I started watching them, and sort of the thought hit me that even though I was striving to become great at what I was doing as on the technical side, on the doctor side, I had this epiphany that I thought that cancer survivors really required more than their doctors just being good doctors, or the nurses just being good nurses. And we really needed to get out there and make some changes, and really, get our hands dirty and get involved and become involved with our patients. And then the next event was going to what was called in the day, I think they still have these Relay for Lives, where a high school will let everybody camp out and you walk around the track. The survivors walk around the track, and it's a fundraiser. And I just kind of watched that power of watching the survivors take their victory laps. And then that just basically then in 1999 evolved into what was the origins of CROC. So CROC stands for Citizens Reunited to Overcome Cancer. And it was then that I threw myself full-time, not just as a doctor, but as a cancer advocate. So what happened was that we started filling some holes that needed to be filled. And those holes were quantum. I mean, there was no cancer support. There was nothing. There was a person who got diagnosed with cancer. They would have no resources other than their local oncologist, and that would be it. There would be no mechanism for survivors to kind of, connect and share and befriend each other, and relate experiences and relate situations that they would only understand. And then after that came the final piece, was to actually create this organization and do events and lectures and dinners and concerts and comedy shows and fundraisers and whatever. And we did hundreds and hundreds of these and met some amazing people. And then what happened was we sort of then evolved into the grant support people for the Celebrate Life relay, the marathon or half marathon up in Rock Hill, up in Sullivan County, New York. And what we did there is we helped Miriam Lohr and Kathleen Rifkin and all those people. We took all of the monies that they would raise from these events, and we would give out grants. We were the ones that were responsible for that, the oversight of the grant process. And then we were able to actually help people through that. But I sort of missed that actual interaction with the survivor. I mean, giving that check out to those people and watching those tears, that was no less edifying, but it was different. And I think that's when it dawned on me, as technology was evolving and there was more and more resources out there for the survivor. I didn't want to go back to the old model of the, in-person, lectures and dinners and things, because COVID and all this other stuff. So then I decided to share my experiences and use my talents and what I learned over 35 years with cancer survivors, and try to put them down and memorialize them in these podcasts. And then came Angel Santana, and the rest is history. How many episodes are we on, Angel?
I'm so glad you brought that up, my friend. I was just thinking about, when you were speaking, I was thinking about all the stuff we've been up to. We're over 121 episodes right now. We just recorded 122. Of course, we're not going to count the rewind episodes, but we are at 122. One of the things that I wanted our audience here to have faith to understand is, when you go, and I encourage each and every one of you to go onto the websites that we have created through, of course, Small Biz Up and Rod helping us out. The CROC podcast is also part of the the CROC website, which is www.crocvip.com. If you / that and put podcast, you can get to it that way. But when you go there, what I love about your theme is it's the CROC podcast is the weekly program. It's hosted by you, Dr. Yanelli, and its sole purpose is to support cancer survivors and their families who strive to turn tragedy into triumph. Can you explain, briefly about when you hear that phrase, turning tragedy into triumph? I know the answer to this because I was privy to the very first episode, The Waiting Room, but I know that there's a person that really inspired you.
Oh, there were so many, but I could tell you that there were two. There were two women that met in our waiting room, and they were as different can be. One was tall, muscular, farming woman named Mary, who was spectacular, quiet, hardworking, just very, very, like the salt of the earth, like our Pine Island type, and people who live in the Hudson Valley would know what I meant if I said that. And then we would have Beth, who was the city girl who came up to Orange County, probably kicking and screaming like Zsa Zsa Gabor. And she was this little frail, little thin thing, a wisp of a person with a whopping personality and just a, what did they say? Hell's bells, a yeller and a screamer and a talker and a storyteller and just funny and engaging. And they just happened to have back-to-back appointments, and they were both being seen for breast cancer. And it just so happens, I don't know how it happened. I actually do. It's because the bond of cancer absolutely overrides anything else, made them become very dear friends. And just watching those two in the waiting room and just all the shenanigans or whatever. And they made me promise them that on their last day, because they also started on the same day and were ending on the same day, that I was going to take them out for lunch. So what we did was we blocked out my 11:30 to 1 o'clock slot. They finished. We had a big hug. We went out to lunch, and believe it or not, Angel, for the first time in my life, probably for that hour and a half, I didn't say a word. I ate, of course, and it was just such a tear-jerking, 90 minutes to watch those two interact at such a level of humanity. It was just the juice at that lunch was atomic, right? And now with that movie Oppenheimer out and the atomic bomb and all that atomic bomb, that hydrogen bomb, whatever, had nothing on the power between survivors. And that's when the light bulb came up and it said, you know what, you got to do something with this. This is what it's all about. You have to get survivors together. And as I said, for the first, 20 years or whatever, we did it face to face. The next 8 years, we did it by trying to help survivors pay for their services. And now the last 3 years, we've been putting together the podcast. So we've been going, Angel, 1999, 2009. So we're closing in on 30 years in another 5 or 6 years, right?
Amazing. And and to shed some more light to the audience, if you want to get started with the CROC podcast and you just heard this great story, you want to go back and listen to the episode. It's the very first episode. It's called Break Down the Wall. It's the waiting room. They're modules. And Al Denninger, if I said that right, Al Denninger, who is the husband of Beth, makes that appearance, and it is very powerful. We have other episodes in there talking about things from modules about you're going to put, where you good ones, like surveillance module, where you're going to put that scope. You're going to put that scope where, to confessions modules. We have the Winnie the Pooh tribute to Stevie Taylor. We've got Why All the Drama. We've got Confidence and Humility. And I can just keep going on and on. Join this ride. I encourage you. And here's the key thing. It's not like you have to be a person that knows someone has cancer. Yes, that would help because then you can understand a little bit more. But as someone like myself who has not had that interaction with somebody in my own family with that, I have learned a lot more about it, and learning is key on anything we do in life. And I'm privy to that information, and I feel more educated. And that's what the CROC Podcast will do for you. If you'd like to hear more about the CROC Podcast, feel free to reach out to Dr. Iannelli. You can do so on his Twitter account, which is the CROC Podcast Twitter account. And that's going to be at the CROC Podcast. So, take a look. It's available to you. Again, it's at CROC VIP. We've got a TikTok account now, the CROC Podcast, which I'm looking at right now and closing in on over 200 views on each one that I've loaded up recently. I mean, that's fantastic. And you can find us. I put the links in the description on our website. And Dr. E, let me close with a prayer, but more importantly, let me just say this. I say this with all the due respect, and I say this as your friend and as your little brother. It is truly an honor to be in your presence. It is truly an honor to know that that God has created a man like you with the gift and the talent and the patience and the amazing characteristic and the ability to shine, not for yourself, but for the patients that come into your office. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking care of people and their families, and how much you have given back will only give you not only the keys to the great pearls in heaven. I know that for a fact, but more importantly, the fact that your heart is filled with all the hearts that have touched and the ones that you've touched in your lifetime. So I'm totally grateful.
God bless you. Thank you, my friend. What a beautiful episode.
Yes. Heavenly Father, we thank you for today's episode. It's not always about the have faith, let it begin. It's not always about the stories of the woodchucks. It's not always the stories about the negative. It's about shows like this that can share egos aside, and you have to be able to collaborate with other people to share in good fortunes. The CROC Podcast does that for so many people. So I'm hoping that our listeners here will venture over and listen to him and listen to the show that is also on Sundays. And guess what? I'm on there too. I became a co-host. So you'll get to hear me and Dr. E share so many great stories and have an amazing abundance amount of educational, awesome guests that have become our friends as well. May God be with you. May he shine his light upon you. May he continue to shine the CROC Podcast to many others and provide each and every one of you peace on earth. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. May God be with you. And never forget.
Have faith, everybody. Let it begin.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Have Faith, Let It Begin. That's right, Ariel. We're done with another show. And it's always great to have this show with you, my love. We're going to encourage each and every person to listen to our show every single weekday. That's right. You and I are going to help change the world. Do you think that you can do that for me? Huh? Yeah, you can. She does. We want to let you know, and yes, we encourage you to listen to our show each and every weekday, and it's going to be live at 7:30. Make sure you're subscribed to our show. Make sure you get ready, fasten those seatbelts, because Ariel and I and my family are going to bring you a new topic, a new story each and every day, right? Isn't that right, Ariel? Yeah. And she's smiling at me. Guys, enjoy your day.